Elementary at 3288 North G Street.
Which is really 2 blocks from where these homes are burning. This is Marshall Elementary is a quarter of a mile, if that, down from where these homes have burned. So those evacuating can basically watch and in real time see if their homes make it through this fire.
Right. And we did hear from someone who was on the ground. Again, I'm referring to Brandy. She goes by Fire Photo Girl, and she was saying how people were slow to leave. They were getting the evacuation orders, but they really wanted to stay. They've dealt with fires in the past, but they wanted to stay and try to fight this one out. I think we have Rob McMillan on the ground with more to add to this.
Hopefully he's been able to have a little access to this neighborhood because it took a long time for firefighters to get there. We were watching this for some time as homes burned, Rob.
That's right. We've watched a number of fires burn here in the Little Mountain area over the years. We've gone into the backyard of a home here. Homeowner allowed us back here. You can see where this person here is using a garden hose to help kind of water things down, because immediately behind the property up the hill, you can see where there are firefighters up there. And it's tough to tell here because, again, there's so much brush in this area. Clearing all of this brush is difficult for many of the homeowners in this area. But up the hill there is one of the homes that's burning. We believe it's on Vista Drive up there. We've been watching as that home has burned. And obviously for the property owners here on this street, there is a lot of concern about what is happening here, because the winds, they're not gusting too badly, but they're very erratic in this area. And as you guys have been seeing from overhead, from the helicopter, as well as from what we're seeing on the ground, and this has been an issue anytime we come to a fire in the Little Mountain area, just getting in and around the area here is difficult, because not only are the roads tight, but there's lots of growth. And obviously right now everyone's outside of their homes. A lot of people watering stuff down like you see here in the backyard. Why don't you walk with me? Let's go back out front and I'll show you what we were dealing with over there. Again, this fire burning in the Little Mountain community. You can see a firefighter here trying to make access. They've been able to drag hose line up there, another firefighter up top, but this gives you a really good idea of some of the difficulty they're having as far as access goes, because if they can't get there on the if they can't get there via street, they have to climb through many of these backyards. You can see you have a 7 or 8 foot tall wall there that someone had to go around, climb up and get the hose line up there. And this is just trying to get structure protection into place. There's another water dropping helicopter to come in and make a drop. But watch what this firefighter is doing up here as he's watering down the side of the hill, and you can see that home behind him. Look at all that brush around the home there. That makes it very difficult for firefighters to get into this area to try to defend these structures. That's definitely going to be a problem as they move forward. Now, as we were driving to the scene here, there wasn't a whole lot of smoke being put up. I think part of that was because as the winds are gusty, some of those smoke bands, if you will, were laying down. As I talk, Dave, let's head out to the front yard here and I'll show our viewers kind of what it looks like here. We're walking down the driveway, and this is Edge Hill Road right out here, one of the main streets. And this might give you a better idea as far as the kind of access issues that the fire department, as well as the sheriff's department and police department are having, because you've got these, and this is one of the wider roads, if you believe it or not, in this community. You've got these roads here where it's very difficult to get around. You have people in their front yards walking around, and it's difficult for the fire department to get into place. It's also difficult for us to see how the fire is doing from this vantage point here. If you walk forward a little bit, Dave, you can see where that structure on the ground is burning, that home that we were talking about, this home that we were in the backyard of right here, directly below the home above. As you've been watching from the helicopter all afternoon, we believe at least 3 homes, I think by our count, have burned, many more threatened. Back to you guys for now.
I don't agree. Okay, all right. Thank you, Rob McMillan, live on the ground there for the Edge Hill fire. And we do have a map we want to show you so you get a better understanding of the area of the Edge Hill fire. If we can show you that, there it is.
All right, I think we're going to go maybe try to.
All right, that was Rob. Okay, so again, reiterating that the fire started around 2:30 on the 3300 block of Beverly Drive. You see Beverly Drive there, you see Ridgeline where the fire is. And the evacuation's underway right now is for all residents on the south side of and south of Ridgeline Drive. Also those living on the north side and north of Edge Hill Drive, west 2 and including Beverly Drive and East 2 Circle Road.
Right, so this is that cluster of where those homes we have seen, that's Vista, that's Edge Hill, and that's, I think, Hillhurst. Beverly Drive, I believe, is where the ignition point was.
Yes.
Marshall Elementary is the evacuation center. If you have been forced, if you live in that area, again, south of Ridgeline, north of Edge Hill, and east to Circle Road. You can go to Marshall Elementary, which is not far. These residents know where this is here in the Shandon Hills community in San Bernardino County. Just a devastating day for this community. Several families will be returning to this area at some point and find their homes are no longer there, and the firefighters are working right now to make sure that that list does not grow tonight.
And this fire moved so quickly, people didn't have enough time to gather their things and run. So we have on the phone with us, joining us now is Eric Sherwin with the San Bernardino County Fire Department Public Information Officer. Thank you for talking with us. Earlier, there were no water dropping helicopters, but now we have 3. Has that significantly helped the firefight?
Anytime that we can put large volumes of water onto the fire to knock the heat out such that the firefighters on the ground can get in there and do work, it's going to be an advantage.
Yeah, can we talk about what took, there was some delay. We were watching this fire burn for some time. Was there a delay in getting firefighters there, both, I guess, on the ground and getting some water dropping helicopters on this fire?
I would have to look at our notes right now, but I can tell you firefighters on the ground were here within minutes of the original dispatch.
Yeah.
San Bernardino County Fire, unlike some of our larger agencies here in the region, we do not have our own aircraft, our own fleet of aircraft. So we get on scene and have to place that request. And then that order gets filled for an aircraft, just like it would be for an additional engine company or hand crew.
Sure.
And then once those assets get here, something that's unique about Little Mountain is that we don't have a water source that's as close as we would like. So to that point, we do set up portable tanks. And if you look out to the west side of this incident out in Blair Park, you can see we have one of those 3,000-gallon flex spools that's attached to a hydrant. And that's what those helicopters have been drafting from to support these water drops.
Yeah. And earlier, when you were talking to us, you mentioned that the Little Mountain community has dealt with fires in the past. This is not a new thing, but this one moved particularly fast. Can you talk about the conditions out there that created this situation?
And that just, no, that speaks to the season that we've been seeing all throughout the Southland since late spring with our entrance into summer, with these fuels being critically dry on the tail of a robust rainy season. So we had a very mature grass crop that was able to grow, dry out, and cure. And now when we do get these fires with these triple-digit temperatures, they burn unbelievably quickly.
And we're just kind of panning from our helicopter over this fire of the several homes that were lost, and we think about the families that have lost their homes. But I want to ask you about the firefighters on this fight. Right now, I'm sure they are in it. The adrenaline is high. This is their job. They do this a lot. But when you are in a fire and, your job is to prevent these homes from going. So when this is done and the exhaustion sets in, what are these guys and men and women on the front lines going to deal with tonight? When it's all said and done and homes have been lost, what toll does that take on these firefighters in the front lines?
It's frustrating, and you hit the nail right on the head. This is what we do. This is what we got into business to do, is to protect people and protect their property. When the fire is burning to a degree such that no matter what we put in front of it, the fire is going to take a home, that's a hard one for us to hit. But we change our tactics, and our strategy becomes protect as many homes as possible.
Okay. And then what are your thoughts on the folks in this community who we understand were slow to leave when those evacuation orders were announced?
It's a combination, like we noticed in starting to talk to some of the engine companies and signs here. As they came up, there were already people leaving the area because they know the potential within this community. Other people are, to ask somebody to leave their home and know that the fire may take it, and some people can't wrap their heads around that. But it changes the tactics of firefighters, where we're looking at fighting the fire and protecting homes. When we have people that stay at their homes, we have to adapt our strategies. We can't focus on the fire because our priority is always going to be life safety. So we might have a different strategy coming into a community where we know people are choosing not to heed the evacuation.
I hope people think about that when they choose to stay, because all of a sudden you have firefighters who would be trying to prevent the fire, and all of a sudden they have to worry about people who are in these homes, and that kind of diverts some of the attention away. I think this could be a cautionary tale of what you have to do before the fire is ignited. Can we talk about brush clearance and what people can do to try and prevent some of this catastrophic end result we're seeing here of what was a home and is now just a pile of burning ashes?
The best fire we fight is the fire that never stops. So prevention is one of our key messages to keep those fires from starting. But when fire does come into a community, if you have created that defensible space, that gives firefighters a place to work in managing and gives us a zone that we can work in to do our best to protect those homes from an advancing wildfire.
Yeah, a lot of these areas are small, compact areas with narrow roads. If there are cars parked on the roads, it makes it even more difficult. How troublesome is it to access a community like this with these small roads, narrow lanes, getting a truck up into these communities to be on the front lines, and you're dealing with the fire that's actively burning in your path?
Yes, the community of Little Mountain is very similar to our mountain communities that we have up in the San Bernardino National Forest, where we have these almost one-lane roads that go into and out of. To that point, we did have many residents that were already loading up, already at the very minimum moving their cars out of the neighborhood down off the hill. And we do have dozens of residents that are down out here by the command post that are watching the fight, but they have moved their vehicles out of there such that our fire apparatus can move with fewer restrictions up and down those streets.
At last count, we understood that there were 12 to 15 homes lost. Do you have an update on that?
Damage assessment for us plays a role later in our incident. Right now, our efforts are focused on creating a perimeter, bringing this fire under control, and protecting as many homes as possible. Once we've been able to do that, then we'll get into the damage assessment portion of our incident and start coming out with hard numbers.
Okay. Let's talk about the wind being a factor. We heard a couple of things, that the wind is not blowing, there aren't any major gusts, but it's still blowing enough to make this worse. Can you?
Yes, and
there's funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5. Newswire on the Evil FB Network and Rumble. Check us out, subscribe, type in Newswire on Rumble. Wow, devastating fire up in the San Bernardino Hills. For those of you who need some direction, it's just above the 210 and 215 freeway split. If you know where Yamava or used to be San Manuel or something casino, there's an Indian casino up there just north of San Bernardino. In that area is where the devastating fire is burning. Several homes lost. It looks like they're getting it under control, or what homes have went up. There doesn't seem to be, or from the reports we're getting, there's not many more homes in immediate danger. They initially got 200 firefighters up there and obviously air support up there immediately, but they were out, the San Bernardino fire crews were asking for Riverside, San Bernardino, or Riverside, LA, Orange County, anybody to come out and help. They said, man, we're getting bombarded. As you see, there's one or two houses burnt. There looks like a few other homes that looks like in the area that look like they're okay for now on that. Hopefully they will get at least containment on it where those other existing homes are not threatened to be burned on that. As you see, it's very hard or very difficult. Most of the area up there, once you leave the freeway, is one-lane roads going up into that area. So it can be very challenging to get it as you see them pan out on the shot of where you get a more of a expansive look of that. It isn't too far from where, you have more densely populated residential areas in that area. They call that the Little Mountains area of San Bernardino. Like I say, it's just, I would say, north of Highland, again, north of that, in between Highland and Muscoy, if you're kind of familiar with that area up there in that pretty picturesque area. You have a hell of a view from those homes up there, as you see from live from ABC7, who so far has had the best coverage of that so far on the fires going on up there. Everybody else has just been moving in and out as they're in commercial break right now of that. But we hope they get that under control. It doesn't spread anymore, or no more homes are endangered, or doesn't trail down the hill. It looks like they got a pretty good, and they're saying they got a pretty good handle on it, or they're getting it where it doesn't appear any more homes are in danger. And let's hope that is the case. They said they were going to make another, I think they're going to have a press conference right around 6 o'clock when we're going off the air, but they said they are optimistic that they have knocked this thing down enough that whatever homes that have been burnt or pretty much destroyed, that they've contained the damage to that. Now, that doesn't make it any easier for those who, obviously are going to come back to their homes and see them either completely or majorly destroyed. That's got to be a devastating outlook on that. Want to shift gears a little bit, and Dr. Kelly should be on at the bottom of the hour like she usually is on a Monday. But getting to more of this whole rendition of, obviously we had Joe Biden drop out Kamala Harris, but Kamala Harris has really not been defined. She got her start in San Francisco as the DA, I believe, in 2004, largely backed by Willie Brown, and we'll put the pictures up of the fire on ABC7. She moved up to Attorney General. I think she ran for that in 10, was reelected in 14. 16, she ran for U.S. Senate, was elected to that. But she's basically flown, as they do the weather report, she's basically flown under the radar screen. She has not been defined. Trump's been defined. We know Trump. Make America Great Again. Trump. Whether you love or hate Donald J. Trump, pretty much everybody, at least in the good old US of A, has formed their opinion on Donald J. Kamala Harris is, other than writing the deal for Prop 47, the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, and pushing that, she was largely overshadowed. In 2010, Moonbeam Brown was the Attorney General, came in as governor, and he grabbed all the, basically, the state attention. She got elected senator. She was the junior senator. She took over Barbara Boxer's seat when she quit. Dianne Feinstein, which had been there, since 92. And love her or hate her, too. She was an icon in politics, had a lot of gravitas credentials. Kamala Harris just kind of sat over there in the corner, really didn't say anything. Then she got appointed vice president in 2020 by Joe Biden, and they were elected. She's large, other than the border czar fiasco of that, nothing's happened. She's basically flew under the radar screen. So the Mockingbird media is trying to define Kamala Harris, which they don't really know what to do. They just say prosecutor. They don't say prosecutor who in her first jobs were going after black men who were innocent and cost the city, county of San Francisco $13 million. And there's a long laundry list, I'll get it out, of screw-ups and prosecutorial misconduct from Kamala Harris as District Attorney of San Francisco, as Attorney General. The most famous one is that ballot title for 47 that basically made vagrancy and petty theft, or if you stole less than $950, we're not going to do anything with you. And they basically, although there are tools in the toolbox, they basically made it very difficult for your local district attorneys and ultimately your sheriff's deputies, police officers, to arrest these people because nothing was basically going to get done. The business communities had enough. That's why Prop 36 is on the ballot this year in California to correct the wrongs that Kamala Harris and crew devastated us with 10 years ago. Second thing I want to say is, okay, we've heard all about this Donald Trump and the Stormy Daniels and supposedly peeing on the bed with the Russian hookers, which was totally false. The Stormy Daniels, the E. Jean Carrolls, and all that stuff. Well, Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, which is works for one of the supreme high-powered Washington, D.C. law firms. It's now come out the story that he got a divorce because he got his nanny pregnant back in the day. So, if we're not going to talk about Doug Emhoff and Kamala Harris and whatever picadillos and sexual indiscretions or not they may have had, Doug Emhoff's one is he's admitted to it, and I probably was part of his divorce. That seemed to be, or reports are, that was the impetus of the first Mrs. Emhoff, divorcing Doug Emhoff, Kamala Harris's current wife. So if it's off bounds or whatever, or we're not going to go and roast Kamala Harris or Doug Emhoff 24/7, then lay off Donald J. Trump, which I don't think whatever they're doing on their own time or have done whatever to me is not my concern. I'm not really concerned that Doug Emhoff got his nanny pregnant and got a divorce. That was between them. And they have to pay whatever personal consequences in their life or responsibility or whatever went on. Fine and dandy. That's their business. That should not be in politics. Just like Trump's, whatever he may or may not have done, and he's not admitted to any of this stuff or a lot of it. The Russian thing was totally BS. Nobody's come up with any of that. Stormy Daniels said it never happened. Then she changed her tune. So, and Trump said it never happened. So let's lay off of that. Let's define the policies of Kamala Harris. Prosecutor going after innocent black men. Attorney General, same thing. Prosecutor, part of the Attorney General's job in the state of California, the head state prosecutor. Sicking, basically trying to bankrupt or make it almost impossible for most brick and mortar retail store outlets who put in the bulk of the money up to go after anything
30 seconds.
that you see the stores without you go in there and everything's locked up. They're the ones that's coming out. That's what should be defining Kamala Harris. I'm saying get off the black this and Indian that. That's irrelevant. Let's get on to her. Let's define Kamala Harris on her record. As you heard, Sean says we're going to do that. We're going to join the Mighty Men.
Here we go, 10 seconds.
Here in 10 seconds. PatriotSwitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is opinion program. Expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station family team, management, and music customers.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band, joining our vast video audience on the evil FB network and Rumble. Check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire on Rumble. We've had the devastating fire up in the San Bernardino Hills, as you see it on the ABC7 report. Many homes have been destroyed, devastated. It's absolutely 100% devastation. Hopefully they've got it under control. It looks like there is not much or little, if any, more homes in danger. They're going to have a update, I believe, not long after we go off the air, saying that they've got it under control. But you're seeing the ABC7 report that has been very devastating up in that area. We'll keep you up to date on that whole situation going on up there. Again, if you don't know, it's right where the 210, 215 areas are in that area. Man, it's got to be devastating if you have to go back up there and see your house has been mostly, or if not all, destroyed on that. But as we usually do on a Monday, we have, as I've determined her, the supreme physician in all the world, expert on COVID-19 and just about everything else, Dr. Kelly Victory. Welcome to IE Newswire with Roy. I thought we had Dr. Kelly. Can you hear me? We're going to try it again. We'll see if this thing works. Try the phone system again. Do I have you, Dr. Kelly, now?
There we go.
Finally.
Happy Monday. Yeah.
My phone gremlins are coming up on that. I want to, and I started, we had a big devastating fire in the San Bernardino Hills and many homes were destroyed. We're covering that. But I started off, and this is, I want to touch off on the presidential campaign, or to start with. Kamala Harris has not been defined. She's had to skate through district attorney from San Francisco to attorney general to senator. She was always in the background for some other reason. Somebody else was always up there, even when she got to be vice president, other than the border czar fiasco, and then they hid her in the closet for the last 3.5 years. She has not been defined. I'm saying The Mockingbird media said, defined her as a prosecutor. Well, let's start with that. And when she became a prosecutor in 2004, she went after black men, specifically one that was innocent, put him in jail for 7 years. His attorneys finally got the DNA evidence that showed that he didn't do it. Wound up costing the city and county of San Francisco $13 million. And there's a long laundry list of this. Prop 47, the ballot titled the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, which made vagrancy and basically theft for $950 legal in California and turned the state into a living hellhole. On and on and on. Vice presidency, hit her with the borders are, being a dingbat. That's where I believe Donald Trump and the center right should be defining Kamala Harris. Let's get off the black Indian thing. Who cares? All of that. What say you, Dr. Kelly?
Yeah, I think I would take a little different look at this. I would say that she's absolutely been defined, Roy. She is 100% been defined, and they are trying desperately. The Democrats are trying desperately to keep her hidden right now in the days coming up until the voting actually takes place in earnest. Because there's no question she's been defined, not only during the Biden administration, during which she's been an abject failure as the borders are. Truly, this is a woman who abuses the privilege of being stupid. She cannot put together a cogent sentence. They don't allow her ever to go off script or to go without a teleprompter because she is incapable of answering the simplest of questions or making, we have hostages come home from a Russian prison and she stands on the tarmac and makes some nonsensical word salad. All that was missing was the crouton. Truly, this is a woman who cannot say anything that makes sense. So I would say she's been highly defined. We know how she got where she got early on in her career. It was the good old-fashioned way. It certainly wasn't because of her brilliant policy or because of her brilliant, thought processing. Now we've had 4 years of her with the Biden administration. She did not garner a single electoral vote during her last run for the presidency. She flamed out after spending millions and millions of dollars, and now she's been fundamentally, coronated to be the heir apparent to Biden without anybody voting for her. She's been fully defined. They just need to keep her hidden now.
And I guess maybe I didn't frame it exactly as I should have. My contention, other than us 1.3% crazies that obsess over this and follow this regularly, I think most of the American people really don't know Kamala Harris. They just, the country may have heard of her as vice president. Yeah, she's kind of a ding dong when she speaks, but she's really not been, even in the state of California. You ask people about Kamala Harris and people just stare at most people just like, well, I've heard of her a little bit. Yeah, isn't she the vice president? Maybe I've heard that name somewhere. I think that's in the minds of most voters. She has not been defined. And that really, her record needs to be front and center for the next 94 days, Dr. Kelly.
No, I think on that you are absolutely correct. And people need to put, right now they are playing 100% on the race card. You cannot turn on a single mainstream media news outlet where they're not talking about how remarkable Kamala Harris is for the black community. I would remind people she just became black the other day because up until the other day she was Indian and Asian. Now all of a sudden she's black. I don't really care what her ethnic heritage is. I think that this is the most hypocritical thing that the Democrats do, and they do it all the time, which is to play this race card, to play this idea that you should vote for her because she's of a certain ethnicity, when instead, what have the Democrats ever done for minority communities? And the answer is nothing. Minority communities are worse off today than they were ever in our history. And truly, it's because the Democrats always fail to actually produce They pander for those votes, but they don't produce. I think that you're right. We need to absolutely expose everything she has said, whether it's 100% that she's behind banning fracking, that she thinks, we should pack the Supreme Court. She believes that we should, you shouldn't be able to be arrested if you steal less than $950 worth of stuff. She believes in abortion up until the time of birth and possibly after, and on and on and on. These are the things that should be exposed and ultimately should hang her.
Yes, I think if the only way, and I think they've studied it, the only way is they're trying to make Kamala Harris into an Obama-like figure in this sense, as back in 08 and 12 and during the whole 8 years of the Obama presidency, they used the race card as, oh, you can't criticize this guy. I think that's where really this whole it was always there, but this, where we're going to use racism or that to shield this guy from that. And I think they think that's the only way now that pretty much they're committed, the Democratic Party's committed to Kamala Harris. That's the only thing they got, because even talking to my contacts in that side of the world, they don't know how to defend her record, and that's why they're coming out with this whole, you cannot criticize Kamala because of her supposed race, Dr. Kelly.
Yeah, well, the thing that's the most insulting, I think, of all, Roy, is that nobody voted for her to be the candidate. 14 million people, 14 million Democrats cast a vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden he has now stepped off the ticket, but there should be a democratic way of figuring out who the next person should be. You simply can't have some backroom deal where, Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett and Susan Rice and Ron Klain and whoever else meet together and say, okay, now we'll anoint Kamala. I mean, talk about the threat to democracy. Democrats are constantly out there hammering on the idea that Donald Trump is somehow a threat to democracy when they are thumbing their noses at the democratic process during this, election period. Kamala Harris was not elected. Not a single person cast a single vote for her. And I think that by itself is just insulting.
It is. And I think, and again, the way they did it, and even Nancy Pelosi was, and that's why one of the reasons why she withheld her endorsement of Kamala, she said, hey, we need to have some sort of mini primary or some sort of vote, not just this coronation. And again, I think this takes the whole, we're defending democracy, Gen 6 issue and all of that crap. I think that takes that totally off the board, because you don't hear that from them much, hardly at all anymore, because I think that's another table that they are standing on quicksand, earthquake faults, the San Andreas fault getting ready to blow at a 9.0 or something. They're sitting right on it compared to what they did and what they have just done, anointing Queen Kamala, Dr. Kelly.
No, I agree with you. And if you listen at all to the mainstream media in the last 48 hours, they all clearly got the talking point that the word they are supposed to use when describing Republicans or conservatives or anybody on our side of the aisle is weird. We now are weird. J.D. Vance is weird, and Trump is weird, and you and I are weird, and people who want to do it, we're all weird. And they all and they say it 75 times a minute, that something's weird, because they're trying to distract from the reality. They are trying to distract you from actually looking at Kamala Harris's history, at her, at her pedigree, at what she has done. They have got their work cut out for them, because the question is just how long do you think they can keep her under wraps? All it took was one day, finally, for Joe Biden to come out not medicated enough to do that debate, and the wheels fell off the bus, and they said, oh my God, we have a problem. How long do you think they can keep Kamala Harris under wraps? from speaking extemporaneously, from speaking off script, from being asked a question where she just spews out some word salad gobbledygook that makes no sense, or does that heinous cackle, and people just say, oh my God, this woman is a card-carrying idiot. I think they've got the deck stacked against them. If we can just keep Donald Trump and team on track, keep them on task, keep them focusing on what they can deliver and how they will bring us back to the wonderful economic boom that we all experienced during the Trump administration. I mean, the contrast, Roy, should be so stark. Right now, we are really looking down the barrel of a recession. We probably have already been in it. We may well be looming with an all-out war right now in the Middle East. Things are not going well. And if we can keep Trump and team on track, truly, I think that we can expose Kamala Harris for what she really is.
No, when you're talking about the weird, I put a picture up for a little bit of that admiral and that other bald-headed guy that was running around in a dress and all of them. He was really weird. Now, up until a couple of years ago, anybody, that would have been defined as weird. Not J.D. Vance with a wife and 2 kids as being defined as weird of going on of that. It's been absolutely devastating what we've been going through in all this stuff. But I want to shift gears into this, and maybe you can shed some more light in it on this whole controversy over whether the whole boxing deal that went on at the Olympics, whether this dude, and I'm still on that part, he's supposedly has female genitalia, not male genitalia, but he's got an X and Y chromosome, and he isn't in that, and everybody's been going across the board on this whole thing. Can you shed some light on where we stand on this whole issue with the Olympic boxing and this guy? He appears, if you look at his characteristics, his muscle tone, and everything else, and his devastating punch, I'm saying that guy, that he is a man. He is a male. Have you learned anything, or can you shed some more light on this, Dr. Kelly?
Well, what I can tell you, Roy, is that there are multiple ways in which we could determine gender. The most obvious, and the one that is most common, is chromosomes. If you have an XX, you're female. XY, you are male. At full stop, end of sentence, okay? If you have XY chromosome, you are a male. People can have confused genitalia. There are people who have genitalia that looks female on the outside, but they don't have ovaries and a uterus, or people who look male on the outside who may end up having residual ovaries, for example, when you do an ultrasound or on an autopsy. So the genitalia doesn't determine it, but genitalia also doesn't determine your physical attributes when it comes to athleticism. This guy, and that's who he is, who was in the ring with a biological female and who pummeled her into submission in 46 seconds, is without question has male attributes that should have disallowed him from competing in female sports. I don't care what your genitalia looks like. I've seen enough naked people in my life as a physician. I've spent 35 years as a physician. I've seen a lot of genitalia, and it comes in all shapes and sizes. Okay, they aren't all the same, but what is the same is when you are an XY, you have the ability, you are bigger, stronger, more powerful, and have the physical capability to, frankly, out-strengthen. Your strength is superior to that of somebody who has an XX chromosome, with very rare exceptions. Here's the reality. I don't care how this person, quote, identifies. If you went in and said, I weigh 260, but I, quote, identify as a lightweight, I've always thought of myself as a lightweight, and I want to, compete in the lightweight category, would they let you? And the answer is no, because nobody cares how you identify. They care about what the number is on the scale. And you stood on the scale and you weigh 260, you're not a lightweight, you can't compete in that category. It's the same thing. If you have an XY chromosome, you are not a female, at least insofar as it comes to competing in sports. If we want to come up with a third category for transgender people, God love you. Have that fight. Do it. But in the meantime, you are going to destroy women's sports. Okay? Every Title IX might as well never have happened. We will destroy women's sports if we allow this insanity to continue.
That's what I wanted to get to. What defines you, the gold standard that defines you between male and female is XY versus XX chromosomes. And if you have XY chromosomes, you are going to have the testosterone level, the muscle makeup, the physical structure of a male. And that's where, no matter what's inside, and there can be, very rare cases, and this individual seems to be one of those that can be, mutations can take a, 1 in a million shot of somebody's born this, that, as you explained. But basically, this person who was boxing in the female division was a male. He has a XY chromosome. He is a male. He should not be boxing in the women's division, period. End of story, Dr. Kelly.
Yeah, well, I would also ask you, I really would question whether or not that individual truly sees himself as a female. He's Algerian, Muslim, yet he doesn't wear a hijab outside. Okay? He wasn't wearing a hijab like a female should be. Does he, in fact, actually see himself as a female? Because he doesn't portray himself or carry himself as a female would in Algeria. So I really have to say, I question it. And the reality is, if we're going to go down this gender ambiguity road, then we best come up with a third category for people who are trans. And then we can decide if you're a trans female or a trans male and you want to fight in that category or compete in that category, God love you. But in the meantime, we've got to protect female athletics for what it is, athletics, so that we can allow females who train and work and spend their life trying to compete as females, that they have a fighting chance, and we allow males to compete in their own category. And if you want to go up with a third category, have that fight. But the idea that we are going to destroy women's athletics by allowing biologic men to compete against them, I think is a travesty.
This is why I've deemed you the supreme expert on COVID-19 and just about everything else. Thanks for being on, Dr. Kelly. We'll do this again soon.
Talk soon, Roy. Thanks.
You got it, Dr. Kelly Victory. And there you go. You've got it from a doctor. That was a male. X and Y chromosome equals male, period, end of story. We do not have to define it any other way. Man, oh man. As you know, I've been talking about standing up for our country, doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created, for those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Is your car doing the hucklebuck and afraid you will be stuck? Well, head on down to Toyota of San Bernardino, Nissan of San Bernardino, Subaru of San Bernardino, and the San Bernardino Auto Mall, and catch a Camry, look ravishing in a Rogue, or be styling in a Subaru. Don't forget I-10 Toyota in Indio for those of you in the lower desert. You deserve to be the happiest human on the planet. So head on down to one of these 4 great dealerships for the car of your dreams. Spread the word. IE Newswire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to IE Newswire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. That's it. If you want to buy American, go to PatriotSwitch.com. If you need a new Toyota or Subaru, go to one of Cliff Cummings' great dealerships at San Bernardino Auto Mall at the 10 and 215 freeways Don't forget I-10 Toyota down in the lower desert. Wow. What a day. Wishing all the best. Hopefully no more homes are destroyed up there in the little mountain area of the San Bernardino Hills of that. That's very devastating. You know, those families that did lose most or all of their home and possessions. Man, we really, our heart goes out to them, and hopefully they said keep up to date with it. It looks like they have it at least where no more homes are threatened. They put out an all points bulletin. San Bernardino Fire put out all points bulletin. They initially got 200 more. They said, hey, all hands on deck. Riverside, LA, Orange County, get your butts up here. We need your help. Looks like they got it knocked down pretty good, even though a few families are going to be very devastated, and our hearts go out to them. We got a lot of work to do. It's not over, but as I said, with the stock market crashing, we're on the verge of World War III. Another our big Chevron I don't know if it still was, but it was for a long time. That was the biggest corporation that was headquartered in California. They're gone. They finally pulled out. And man, if they close their Martinez and Torrance refineries, you won't even want to think of what the price of gasoline is going to go to. We're only down to 7 refiners. If they pull out the refineries, and they're trying to tax them up there at the Martinez one up there in the Bay Area, the city is trying to tax the refinery up there. Man, if they pull those 2 refineries out, holy cow. There's a lot of implications going on along with the Kamala Harris deal, but let's define Kamala Harris's record since she came on the political scene 20 years ago in 2004 as district attorney and prosecutor, attorney general as prosecutor, U.S. senator, and border czar as vice president. Let's work at defining Kamala Harris at that. I think if we do that, Donald J. Trump wins in a landslide because he's on the plus side of every one of those issues. We need to focus here in the last 94 days and focus hard and work like your life depends on it, because it might. That'll do it for today. We usually say at this time, mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours. Why? You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya!
The proceeding was a...
All right, Roy, take it easy. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Are you going to be around tomorrow? What's going on?
Yeah, I should be. I'll probably have I'll probably go live, but I'll probably give you like a...
All right,
just for the last part.
Just give me a heads up.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, take care.
Bye. This guy.